Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Grades and Trades Podcast, where we talk about what's going on in the card and collectible world. I'm your host, Pocket Bounty, along with my good friend,
Let's
Trading Card
reset it
Bro.
real quick. Let's reset it real
Okay.
quick. Let's run it back. This is the first episode, because we never post the other one, and we'll end up
Oh, okay.
re-recording the other one at a later date. But I like the source material. All right, restart, Joe.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Grades and Trades Podcast, where we talk about what's going on in the card and collectible world. I'm your host, Pocket Bounty, along with my good friend, Trading Card Bro. And on this episode of our 9's, the new 10's, talk to me, Trading Card Bro. What's going on?
What is up, dude? Yeah, so I don't know. I know we brought this up in conversation before, and I kind of talked about it. I just think it's interesting when you look at modern cards, Vice, even vintage that got graded, even up to a decade ago, how you just see less 10s now than you used to. And And what I mean by that is, as far as the population, right? Like, I feel like even with modern, or correction, vintage cards that you see ripped and degraded, a lot of them are 10s. And it just made me think about it with a lot of like the modern Pokemon cards that I've graded. Um, it's very hard to get a 10, right? And it's not like that's a bad thing. Like, sure, everyone doesn't deserve a 10. I'm not saying everyone deserves a trophy, but what I am implying is their quality, right? There's mass printing now, and you just don't see them as much. You saw that Umbreon VMAX that I just submitted, the secret rare
Yeah.
alt art,
Yep.
coined Moonbreon, like the fan favorite of Sword and Shield block. And the
Absolutely.
centering looked pretty darn good towards the eye. I don't really like using those tools because I think they damage your cards or have the ability to. So just from an eyeball shot, and then you did a centering of a 9, which means 2 nits. So, I mean, really to see like those perfect ones or even the black label 10 BGSs or the perfect 10s from CGC, you just don't see them. I mean, you see a lot of PSA 10s because their grading criteria, obviously we know isn't up to the same standard, but it's just an interesting thought that I thought of is, hey, are 9s the new 10s? You look at
Oh,
populations and there's always going to be more 9s than 10s even with vintage, but I mean, per like margin, there's more cards being graded now than ever, and what's more accessible is modern cards. So it makes you think, um, in a decade or even 5 years, are 9s going to be the new 10s? Sure, 10s maybe have a huge, phenomenal price point, or astronomical rather, price point, but are 9s going to be almost like, hey, everyone knew that those print runs were really bad. And you were very likely to get miscut cards or messed up cards. So as a 9, just as good, because you looked at a 9, the 9 500 VMAX I just outbatched. I mean, it is a spotless card, and I have no doubt that if I tracked it, it'd be a PSA 10. So,
okay. So then a couple things. For those of you who don't know, I'm not a huge grader. That is more of Trading Card Bros territory, but I do have graded cards, and I'm familiar with what's going on in the grading community and stuff like that. He is just more of the expert on the matter. So I'm going to ask a bunch of questions throughout the whole grading talk, and one of them is we have from Beckett, of course, the black label. That's what everybody wants, right? And then, of course, here in CGC, you want the perfect 10, but you can also get a pristine 10. And a pristine 10 is going to be a little bit less than a perfect 10. But how much more would a pristine sell than a perfect sell, or vice versa? Like, would a perfect 10 on CGC sell an astronomically like higher amount than a pristine 10, or is it just going to kind of maybe be a couple bucks, a couple hundred, depending on the value of the card?
I think it's a plethora of things. I think one, it's is the card a modern card or a vintage card? That always applies. But I guess if it's the same card, and we'll say a modern card, and we'll use Moonbreon as an example because who doesn't love Moonbreon? You just looked at the numbers, and there's a significantly less amount of perfect, vice, you know, perfect tens, vice, your
And
pristine
pristine 10s,
tens.
but would that make a pristine 10 not looked at as a true 10?
It does, right? And I think CGC did a good job of basically doing the same market as budget, right? Because even a budget 10 still goes for significantly more than a 9.5 or a 9, and the same thing holds true with CGC, right? I got this Moonbeyond rated and it rated a 9.5,
Well,
and
you
it's
got a
only
subgrade as well, correct?
I did get subgrades, and not everyone really cares for those? Really, the reason why you do subgrades is that's how you would get that black label or the perfect 10, right? Because if not, the highest you need is a pristine 10 for either company.
Oh,
But you,
okay. So you're telling me if I were to ship in a card and it would be a perfect 10, if I do not get the subgrades, they'll knock it down immediately to a pristine 10?
correct.
Wow,
And
that's
I've
crazy.
heard the same thing. I've heard Beckett will do something where if it really is a true black label 10, then they'll just give you the subgrades with it. I don't know how true that is because I haven't really graded with them as
I mean,
much.
that's how I feel it would be. I mean, if it's a perfect 10, then you just automatically know everything, or yeah, everything about it's a 10 across the board. So
Yeah,
just
but
put it
you
on the
never know
label and be
about
good to
being
go.
on the other end of it, and they're like, well, who cares? They didn't feel to, there could be that grader on the other end who's like, well, they didn't want to pay for subgrades, so why would I hook them up and give them all tens?
Oh,
You
okay.
never
So
know.
so then when you're talking about buying a 10, like let's say you have a black label 10, right? The only thing that's going to match that is a perfect 10 from CGC with subgrades. Like that's the only thing that's going to match that in value, correct? As much as possible.
In my mind, and obviously people are really into the aesthetic of black labels, so it just depends. But
Well, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind in Beckett, they do put a sleeve inside of the actual slab as well. So if you want aesthetics, in my opinion, that kind of ticks it at least a point down for me. And if you want that delicious black label and all you cares about is the label, then great. But if you want an overall great looking slab with the label included, with the card on display, they get a point knocked down from me because they have that stupid sleeve in there rather than BCGC where they keep the card super authentic. Nothing's really blocking it but the actual plastic slab, and they actually have the borders that hug it close enough to where it's not going to move, and you don't need a sleeve.
right, and so I actually pulled this up on the computer so they'll be able to see it on the screen. Excuse me. As far as the Ember and VMAX, there's alt art. There's 1330 graded, 25 perfect tens, 161 pristines, 597 9.5s, which mine is one of those, 433 nines. But then from there you have 78 fives, 23 eights, 7 7 5s, 7 sevens, 3 sits fives, and then you have some rare pop ones. For all those people who are into that. There's a six, a 5 5,
Dude, hey, I'd
one
be I'd
five,
be down for some pop ones,
and
man, if it
one
was of a
four.
super rare card.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'd imagine that some of those have to be like. I'm clicking on the 4 to see if it lets me look at it. It says
I mean, come
centering
on.
9, surface 3, corners 8, edges 7 5. Either that card came out of the factory super messed up,
Which happens.
or someone let their kid get a hold of it and the surface got messed up at school, and then their dad decided, hey, I wonder how much this
Oh.
card's worth, and then it's you know,
Or the kid took it to school, dad didn't know. Comes back to school, dad's upset because he wanted to grade it, ends up grading it anyways,
right.
or mom. But
Well,
I mean,
here's an
dude, no,
interesting thing that
yeah,
that Glaceon VMAX. So there's two Glaceon VMAXs that are perfect tens. So you're just seeing it where there's astronomically lower numbers of tens. And I know people are gonna think, well, Charizard was probably at that at one point, but was it? I mean, they were just grading them tens left and right, and they still get graded tens rather frequently when they're pulled straight from boxes. And most modern cards, now that there's this new craze for grading, are pulled right from boxes, and people are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a 10. They don't get a 10. So what's the difference unless it's a manufacturing thing? You know what I mean? You're looking at the perfects right now. There's onesie twosies of a lot of cards. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
one
yeah.
sec, 1 second. Yeah, but like I was saying, we're seeing a lot of perfect tens, and you're not seeing the same tens and nines. I don't know if you're on your desktop or not, but if you want to look at that, it's pretty crazy because the amount of perfect tens. Obviously, there's a really good amount of perfect 10 Umbreon VMAX alt arts, which is expected.
Yep,
Of course, it's been the most rated card.
of course.
Excuse me. But aside from that, Rayquaza VMAX, the alt art, 952 total graded, only 7 perfect. So what does that say about the quality control on that particular card? You know what I mean?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Because it's almost the same amount. So it's just something to think about. And obviously, like I was saying, even the 10s very low and 9s very low, right? You have let's see. Let me go back to the Rayquaza VMAX that we were talking about. 103 10s, 415 9.5s, 389. So are 9s the new 10s? I mean, I know there's more 10s than 9s, but just still, like the sheer size of the print runs, is it about the same quality or is it different? And that's just something that's pretty interesting to think about,
Well, and we're not talking about 9.5s.
right? Well, now that I'm here, I'm actually curious. I'm gonna look at the original series. Let's go look at the
Ooh,
cha
okay.
the Change of All Chains. Base set first edition English. There's almost 30,000 cards graded. Charizard, hollowed ray stamp. I don't care about that. That is interesting. There's some 9's. And then there's two 4's, which is interesting because someone tried to sell me one of those not too long ago. But
Are you
anyways,
on base set? Are you on base set unlimited or first edition?
first edition. So for CGC, none are graded higher than 9.5, which makes you think these have to be pristine ones that probably came out of bots breed. So how many of them?
The only thing I see is I do see one pristine hollow Alakazam.
There's an Alakazam, one Clefairy, two
Mm-hmm.
Machamps, which are the starters, so who cares?
Well, another
Or,
Machamp.
well, Hollow Shadowless.
You got
There's two
two
Venusaurs.
Venusaurs, and that's it, I think.
Wow. Which is interesting, does Blastoise also grades the roughest even through BGS too? So I'm wondering, BGS, let's see. There's
It's
four
crazy, dude.
9.5s. How many 7s are there? Wow, there's only 19. I have one of those. Proud of that.
No, I think there's also a Charmander as well. There's two Charmander pristines. I mean, when you get to the commons and stuff like that, it's just not really worth it.
No one cares.
Correct, correct.
Unfortunately, that's how every WotC set
Yeah,
is,
I
you
mean,
know.
but on the defense, if you're a collector and you want to
No
go ahead and get
way.
your favorite card
There's a perfect 10
graded, do
drowsy.
it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
There's one perfect 10 drowsy. That's insane. That's the only perfect 10 from the whole set. And I get this is CGC. People are gonna say, well, there's a ton more PSA. Like there is. But if we're under that route, let's go to the Chain of All Chains, if you would. Or at least what people think is the Chain of All Chains PSA grading. I kind of want to go and I want to see what their Charizard pop looks like. You know what I mean? Who knows? Uh,
King of Kings would not be PSA in my mind.
I'm saying as far as who was there back then to grade Pokemon. You know what I mean? Because
I
BGS
mean,
hasn't even been grading Pokemon as long as PSA,
yeah, we all know the
I believe.
CGC just started grading trading cards, so
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's different because think about it. Like now you're talking about that's a pretty rare card. Like those 9.5s could probably easily be 10s based on
yeah. But if you want to get a sports card graded, you go to PSA. If you want to get anything else graded, you either go Beckett or you go CGC. End of story. Bye bye.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But I know people already have accounts of PSA and they want to grade PSA. You know what? Do your
Right.
thing.
So just
Do your
based
thing.
off these numbers, you can tell that hey, Charizard Hollow First Editions, we're talking about a card that has been widely submitted, and there's unlimited as well. But First Editions, there's been a total of 3,793, right? Out of those, 123 have been 10s and 706 have been 9s, but then there's 8, 7, 6, 5, 4s. So what I'm thinking is sheerly based off this, because I guarantee a lot of those 9s and 10s have been in the past 5 years since the Pokemon craze, a little bit before and after, people actually ripping open these first dead boxes. Like honestly, and especially just PSA is that monitor. If you think about it, this shows that like a lot of them probably were better conditioned because I guarantee all the 8s and belows came out of binders, people's collections. You know what I mean? It wasn't like people like,
Sadly, yes. I mean, because binders, in my opinion, shouldn't be doing that to cards, but they do, man. They do. So if you guys are wanting to grade, please do not keep your cards in the binders.
the best way to do it is a penny sleeve and a card saver. Like I hate card savers, but I'm telling you, they do a lot better than um top loaders. Just being honest.
Are you talking about when you ship them, or are you talking about when you store them?
I mean, store top loaders fine, but when you go to ship them, grade saver. And get the little
Absolutely.
penny sleeves with the tabs so the grader can just pull it out. Because
And if you cannot find the penny sleeves with the tabs that are like combined, just go to Office Depot or Office Max and get yourself some little sticky tabs. They have come in like 3 or 4 different colors, like highlighted colors, and they stick to the back of the penny sleeve and they stick out of the cards, the card guard or whatever.
you can do
And
that,
bam,
but there's a
you're
brand
good
that
to
I
go.
really like. It's called Grade Saver Pro, and you can get a 100 pack of the Easy Pull Tab Pro Card sleeves. They're the only
That's the
brand
one
that
that
I've
you
seen.
sent me the Alti, right?
Yeah, the card that I sent
Okay.
you recently. Yeah, and I like those a lot. They're kind of pricey. It's like 10 bucks
Well,
for 100 of
I
them,
didn't even
but
know they
dude,
had them until you sent me them, dude.
yeah, they're really convenient. I mean, and for what its purpose is of like, hey, just keep in mind, everyone, when you grade, you whether you realize it or not, when you agree to send a grading company your cards or any type of certification company, any type of collectible, they are not liable for, any damage that can occur while handling. So you want to really make it as easy for them so they have to do the least amount of work. I mean, I hate grade savers or card savers, if you would. Um, but as far as grading purposes, they do keep them the best. And I know you worry like, hey, they're kind of malleable. What if they bend your card? They really don't. And my recommendation is you keep them in there for as minimal time as possible, which is to package for grading, because they stay secure, much more secure than top loader. There's no chance, or there's very minimal chance of them coming out, and that's the concern with the top loaders, right? Is there's always that little bit of looseness. They could slide out. Hey, your card
I
gets
mean, you can tape
bent.
the top of each top loader, right? But then they have to take off the tape, and they don't like that.
Correct.
You know
Correct.
what I mean? That's
Yep.
what he's saying. Make it as easy as possible so that all they have to do is pull on that tab and they pull it out of the penny sleeve and that's it. Then they will take care of the rest. There has been some people that have argued that they have sent in a card that they know for a fact have looked in one condition and it was put inside of a slab and it looked in a different condition.
Well,
Well, sadly, you're out of luck, buddy, because there's nothing you can do.
yep. Hey, here's an interesting fact. Did you know that there's only one PSA 10 Alakazam Hollow? That is base set, not first edition, just base set. And then on top of that, there's zero base set Blastoise Hollows that are 10s, and same with Chansey.
Wow.
That is
That's
nuts.
crazy.
That's really
Yeah,
nuts to think
that's
about.
wild.
Well, it makes me think, I'm like, hey, what if you cracked open a box? That could almost be worth it if you thought it had a good chance of grading a 10.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I'm even looking at Jungle, man, and there are a lot more 10s in Jungle, but not by a lot when it comes to the valuable ones. You know what I mean? So
Right,
it's just very
you're right.
interesting. It's just very, very interesting.
And I get it, people could say, well, the numbers look about the same, because, like, but that's also time. Like, grading wasn't as popular. Now grading is very popular, so to go back to, let me get out of base set and go back to Sword and Shield on CGCs, for example, and we'll go back
Yeah,
to
this is all modern now, so
Evolving Skies. To see almost the same proportion of 10s to 9s
yeah.
is astonishing because if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I don't really like betting, but if I was, I would say that to have almost the same ratio, you know, is
Well,
kind of
that just shows consistent grading and consistent printing then. But they did have a
it
different printer back then. It was Wizards of the Coast. This is now going to just be Pokemon. You know what I mean? So
right. No, and I agree with that, but my other thing is like, you have these same amounts. It's kind of peculiar because it's like, well, if they're all fresh and people are grading them as soon as they pull them, don't you think they'd be tens? Like what I'm curious to think about is, hey, if you could go back and people were grading cards back then like they do now, right? Would the
yeah.
PSA 10 have been as seldom or would have been more expected, right? And then you go into the whole debacle though of like, hey, would the grading company diversify them to, preserve their own? It's kind of like, even what we talked about CGC. I love CGC, but you looked at some of the cards I just sent in my last submission. There's no reason why some of them shouldn't have been perfect tens. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're right,
Because
dude.
they're
There's
giving.
no perfect tens, only pristine tens in well, there's a drowsy. I'm
Well,
sorry. There's
we
a
already
drowsy in
talked about the
first
one thing
ed.
we don't like about CGC
Yeah.
is their pop report doesn't have everything.
It doesn't, man. It doesn't. And that's what's so frustrating with a great company like CGC, with their grading is so good, it is consistent and all that good stuff. It's the online service is what they're lacking. Whereas
Yep,
Beckett and PSA do a very, very good job at that.
completely. And I don't know. Hopefully one day they have the plan to roll out like their Weiss pop report. Because for anyone who doesn't know, I'm really huge into Weiss. But it just makes me think it's like, I've gotten perfect tens in Weiss. I've gotten pristine tens. Some of the pristines seem like they should have been perfect. So I really wonder if it's just the grader, if I should try and resubmit them. You just never know.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, I am into Weiss as well because of this guy. And I do more of the niche sets, so more of the limited sets like Marvel, the Pixar, Star Wars, all that good stuff. So I would love to grade some of my Star Wars and some of my Marvel cards. So I can't wait. Hopefully I can get some perfect tens on those because I will be sending those through CGC. Just so happens to be my favorite feeling slab, my favorite looking slab, my favorite grading company. I mean, dude, how quick were they on your last submission?
It was pretty nasty. I did just a normal economy submission for 20 days, and somehow, some way, I got the cards back the next week. Now, take for granted, I live in Florida, so that's quick, but still an economy. I mean, that's 20 days. I assumed they would mark it received, and I'd see something about being graded, you know, shortly after, maybe a week or two. Nah, it was cracked open and they were doing it, and I was like, holy smokes.
Well, when you say are nines the new tens, do you mean in value? Do you mean in population? What are you saying?
Say that again?
So when you say that are nines the new tens, are you talking like, hey, are nines the new tens in like value wise or overall population grading wise? Like what are we? Because I know that tens. When you got your submission back, you got what, three tens and then some nine fives and then some
Uh,
nines.
no, just four tens and three nine
Four
fives.
tens. Okay, four tens, and then three nine fives, and that's
Yeah,
it. So you got no nines.
yeah. But I
Wow,
also,
that's crazy.
but you know me, I also thoroughly examine my cards and
You do, and you put subgrades in the ones that matter. And that's the thing, guys. You do not have to put subgrades in every single card you submit, even if it's in a bulk submission. I would pick your favorite, maybe two or three, and the ones that you think may get the best grade overall that you've looked at, and then put those in submission for subgrades. A little
correct.
extra, yes,
Yeah,
but I think it increases the value and it makes it just that much more valuable, guys. Like it's not just the how much you're going to get for it, right? It's the look, it's the appeal. It's what people would rather pay if they see a subgraded perfect 10 than a pristine 10 when it's a perfect 10. They just didn't pay for the subgrades.
correct. And like for me, my normal rule of thumb is it's like if I, whether I like or dislike the card, let's say, I normally do like a rule of thumb, like if it's under 300 or so, or somewhere around there. Excuse me. Um, I don't really put subgrades, but say it's a card I really like, and I'm like, hey, I want to see it get subgrades, or I know it's a really good candidate for a perfect, then I will, you know?
Yeah, I
Because at
mean,
the end of the day, even a
yeah.
pristine 10 is still, even with no subgrades, it's like, hey,
Oh,
that's
dude, you still get
still
the
good.
gold. You still get the gold 10. You
Right.
still get the nice slab. You still get everything that you would get with the 9, 9.5, all that good stuff. But it's just not going to have those extra four those extra four little grades on the slab. And people are like, dude, that's so stupid for such a small thing. It's like, yes, but if you're going to go ahead and grade, then you might as well take advantage of every opportunity you can. It's like every single little bit counts when you grade. So why not have this little thing that will increase the overall value of your card? In my opinion, pretty decent. I would pay, like, let's say if it is a card that's worth $1,000 and I see one that's a pristine 10 and I see one that's a perfect 10, I would be willing to pay 1250 for the perfect 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I
Yep.
know that's like $250 more dollars. It's like, well, yeah, dude. I mean, how many more are you going to see? You can run the pop report and see yourself. Then maybe you want to pay 1150, 1100,
Well,
make your bargain,
yeah, and
whatever. But
that's the exact thing you'd be surprised, you know? That's why I really think that the perfect 10 is very comparable to that black label 10, because you just don't see them, you know? That last submission I did, I sent in three cards. One pristine 10, two perfect 10s. So to get two perfect 10s back in a three card submission, one is just nuts.
yeah,
It's the same as a
it
black
is.
label. It really is in my
Yeah.
mind, contrary to popular belief. It really is when you think about it.
Well, we
And
have our
then,
own opinions here and stuff like that. Like that's why my last comment, people might think, "Oh, 250, that's way cheap," or "That's way too much." Like, do your own thing. It's your own opinion, and you can sell your cards for whatever you want. These are just kind of how we. This is how we feel in general.
right, but I think it's fair and it's comparable, especially just people are like, oh, people already accept, hey, um, you know, or people are starting to accept more. They're like, hey, CGC grades the same as BGS. So I don't know why there's that hump in the community where they're like, yeah, but a black label is not the same as a perfect. I'm like, why? Because there's a different color aesthetic to it. It's like, all right, so let's say CGC made a magenta label for their 10s, then are you
Well, what if they
guys
made a black
happy?
label? No. What if they made their own black label? What if it was a black label with a gold perfect 10, and then the
Right,
writing was in white instead, and then the CGC, of course, was in gold at the top, CGC Universal Grade?
right.
That would be super cool, and then maybe they would change their mind. But they don't also want to copy Beckett, and
No.
in my opinion, Beckett people are very loyal, and that's totally fine. And yes, CGC doesn't have the long-lasting history of grading cards; they grade comics, but you best believe they bring their talent over from comics over to trading cards, and they have an insane good reputation for comics grading. And I grade with them if I go to comics. I don't grade anything else other than CGC if I grade my comics. So
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, guys. I do like Beckett. I mean, Beckett's fine. I'm not personally a fan of their slabs. I don't like the pointed corners. I don't like the sleeve. I don't like the thinner the thinner label, and I'm not a huge fan of the metal label or whatever it is. Like it looks okay, and with certain cards, yeah, for sure, okay, great. With an Umbreon and stuff like that, looks super baller. Um, but the way I've been seeing CGC function and stuff like that, man, I'm really digging CGC a lot.
Right, and it makes me question it. Like I've almost, I hate to say it, thought about being a martyr for like trying to get CGC on this platform where people are like realize it's the same because I got that perfect 10 Susei and I'm looking at it right now. Um, Towards the future together, Hoshimachi Susei SSP from Hololive, right, which is super popular in Japan, gaining a lot of traction in the US. The cheapest you can find out of the two listings is 1750, and the near mint it's
Jesus,
2K. Um,
wow,
and
wow,
and what stinks is CGC doesn't have a pop report, but I'm telling you, I think that I have the pop one of the perfect 10 of her. And what's crazy about it is what I've noticed with CGC is I almost feel like they have this thing where they grade your card better if you're the first one to submit it. Because for example, for this card, I put this card into their population as far as putting in the data. So I don't, and I wish I could see a pop report to see how people graded after me, you know? But
yeah,
even
yeah.
this card, I mean, now it's hard to tell because I haven't seen a ton of sales data on her. And but that's also because how hard of a card she is to pull and how many people don't want to let go of her, because for example, one sold right when Hololive dropped. Someone put it on here for $1,000 and it went in like the same hour that it sold. And all I have to say is everyone in the Weiss community said the same thing collectively is like that seller's an idiot.
Well, and
Because
and how often are they also, if they do have it, are they also going to pay the money to grade it?
I mean, it's not even a matter of the grading money. It's a matter of, why aren't you grading it? You can, grade this card for
Well,
about
dude, there's so many
$30.
cards I don't grade. Dude, look, you're talking to the guy on the other side of the podcast. It's one of them. I would probably pull it. And if it wasn't for you, or if it wasn't for
Yeah,
me finding one out in the wild that was already graded, I wouldn't send it in, man. I'm a collector of raw cards. I'm not a collector of graded cards. Do I have a couple graded cards that I've now collected recently? Absolutely. And do I like them? Yes. And shout out Graded Guard. I'll shout them out every single time. Graded Guard has these
right,
protected borders that are colored and they match your cards and they protect your slab just in case they fall. But I mean, I like that. I like the extra things you get. I do like the authenticity with it. I like all of that
right.
now, and that's why we're talking about this and stuff like that. But dude, you'd be probably more surprised the fact of how many are raw sitting out there of people not grading them.
Yeah, you're not wrong, dude.
I mean, and it's
Um,
sad because yeah, you're right. What, 35, $40? But yeah, then you just brought up something earlier on. Hey, it's not their responsibility. It could get lost in the mail. It could get damaged. It could not get the grade they want. All these things. It's a lot of fear, and
right.
some
Well,
people may not want that.
yeah, so the card I've pulled up actually, it's funny enough, is a card that I was looking at. It's a Trial SP from Hololive. Now, if you looked at a raw value, they're going for about 550, right? The last sold was
Hmm.
October 31st for $500, which is really good for a Trial SP, right? Because you're talking about at market value, a Trial case is about 800. You get two SPs. Now,
Yeah,
sure, but then you add the multiplier on Hololive where you only get 2 out of 4. So there's 4 Trial SPs per different generation. Now it's interesting to look at this data because on TCG Player right here, which everyone used TCG Player as a money thing or as a comp tool lightly.
a guide.
I liked eBay. Thank you. I like eBay and I like 130point.com. They're awesome. They'll actually tell you whatever the best offer sale is on eBay while eBay
That's
won't, which is
awesome.
really annoying that eBay doesn't because Why not let it be public
Well,
data?
why would
That's
they?
stupid.
Well, why would they if they're gonna make more money, man?
Yeah, you're
I
not
mean, come
wrong.
on, come on,
It
man.
just
It's
seems
eBay.
silly.
It's eBay. It's sad. I know,
Anyway,
I know.
see, but anyways, right. So the last one sold at 500. There's the most expensive one here, 1600. I've seen this listing on eBay, and it's a CGC Perfect 10, and they want 1600 for it. No offense or buts. So it makes you really think, like, hey, you know,
Yeah. No, dude, you are not wrong.
and
You are not wrong when you're talking about it should be no big deal and you should
yeah,
definitely go and do this. But I mean, again, in my opinion, growing up, now things have changed, but growing up, if you were a card collector, and not a sports card collector, if you were like a Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, like a different type of card collector, you weren't necessarily a collector that had a lot of money. These things were $2 packs, $3 packs, a
correct.
dollar 50 packs. So like a lot of these people growing up and coming up, they didn't have a lot of money to buy these cards, try to buy something else to store the cards in, like top loaders or a binder, and then also have the money to send it in and get it graded. And that's just the sad reality of why I don't have a lot of graded cards. You know what I mean? Other than losing them or getting lost or trades going bad or whatever the case may be.
Right.
You are just you are correct. Like now, guys, we're in the day and age where there's so many grading companies, there's so many different options, there's so much value for you guys to have your cards displayed and saved properly, plus you know they're authentic, you know what you got other than pulling them from a pack, you know what you got off of a site or off of a trade or something is authentic, and you know it's good to go.
Right.
Speaking of Pokemon and all that good stuff, the new era of Pokemon is among us, my friend.
It is. It's pretty crazy. I was actually thinking about looking that up.
Now, what are your initial thoughts about this, dude?
Uh, two things, and I just pulled up the Damer article that shows Pokemon TCG
Ooh.
accidentally reveals Scarlet and Violet's first Terra Stellaized card. So
Ooh, okay,
Terra
hit me with it.
Stellaized card. I don't know. I just read the title, but I was gonna
Oh,
say
okay.
initial people. You calm down for me, right?
No, no, you
Um,
got me, bro. You bamboozled me, dude.
so people, from what I've heard, are not the biggest fans of the silver border, but what I will say is I think it looks slick. You know, I liked the way Japan did that for their cards. I thought that was really cool. Um, I really liked the way Japan did theirs, and then
It's just gonna match, right? It's just gonna match Japan's, just be English, and it's gonna be the silver gray, and
right,
it's gonna be universal now. It's to kind of combine both of them and unify them into one. Just the only difference that you're gonna have now is, of
yeah,
course, the language on the front and the backings.
right, and I think I don't know. I think it'll be really cool. I think it looks good. I think it fits well with the Terra style cards. I think the Terra thing is like really cool.
Well, my thing is look,
Yeah,
it's neutral, right? It's neutral, and when they did it with the Japanese cards, I was super jealous that first of all, their backings are so much cooler. Let's just take that into consideration right there. It
hmm
always has been, but the English backings have never changed. Please, also, if we could get a surprise backing change. Oh my God. If the backs of the cards could have a surprise change and not just the front border, that would be amazing. Will it happen? Probably not. Are there already leaked cards? Yes. This is a fairy tale dream, right? But we at least know that the front of the cards are now going to match in some way. And I'm not saying that they would change the backs to match Japanese. No, I'm just saying I want to change in general because since I was a kid, it literally has not changed for English at all through the backs of the cards. Japanese, they got an upgrade, they got a facelift. But
true.
I like the gray. I like the silver gray because it is neutral. You don't have the yellow that matches better with electric Pokemon and so on. Like the yellow border to me was just a little too much. I've gotten used to it over the years, but I like that it's going to kind of be for the base cards or for the non full art cards. It's gonna just give an overall neutrality to it, and I really
Yeah.
enjoy that because it's gonna help with the colors.
I'll tell you this, I love Dietz cards, so I'm really happy they're bringing back Dietz. I just have to be honest, and I think that the silver border on the Yetzes look phenomenal.
Well,
Now,
and the
an
EX is going to
interesting,
match it, right? The EX is going to be gray as well.
well, that's what I was gonna say. If you think about Dietz back in the day, Dietz was always,
Grayish silver.
right. So now it'll just be interesting that every card is that way. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think silver's easy on the eyes, and I think that's like a good thing to think about with it. Like
I
the
mean,
Mythos art
cool.
it has
I'm
older
down.
XY cards on it, you know, or
Yeah.
stands of them, and the way they're doing it with it, it looks really good. Like the Toradon and the Miradon,
Mm-hmm.
we'll call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Miradon. Yeah.
EX, they both look really good. Like I'm excited. Like if this is gonna be the base set, I'm almost positive. So I'm excited, man. You know, because Sword and Shield people were bogged down about, but I thought Sword and Shield was a nice, refreshing game slash series, right?
They
So,
entered great mechanics. They had great new mechanics to the
right,
actual game, and they had great artwork. They introduced different things. I mean, dude, amazing
right,
rares, V stars. I mean, some people aren't big fans of them, but like the V stars, Radiant, and amazing rares, I love those cards, man. Nostalgic, but with a twist.
right. Well, and it's just funny because, like, you know, you have what's what I'm looking for? Like, people weren't satisfied or appeared unsatisfied or dissatisfied with Starlet or sorry, Sword and Shield. But now Starlight Vitamin's around and everyone's complaining about how buddy it is. Yes, it's buddy, but hey, the games are fun. I'm having a blast, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
I think
absolutely.
what's interesting though from the a TCG standpoint though, not so much a video game, excuse me, because obviously we're trading the grades. I think we're gonna be surprised. I mean, I guess I won't be surprised. Sometime anticipating, but I think that this Scarlet and Violet base set, right? Just like Sword and Shield had their base set, and so on and so forth, Sun and Moon, all that good stuff. I think we're actually gonna see a really good response to it. I just have this weird feeling that they're going to do really good with the card game. I know a lot
Bro,
of people have complained about the power pushing of the sets, and what I mean by that is to keep the game relevant, right? What they've started to do is a lot of the new cards are getting way more HP, making the old cards irrelevant. But people also, thankfully, in the Pokemon community are rather reasonable, and they're kind of like, well, they kind of have to do that to get people to buy the cards. Like, I don't blame them for that. If you know they have to get people to buy the cards and make it relevant.
other than collectability, correct? And I mean,
Yeah,
two things
or
like,
power jump or whatever
n-
they call it. I forget.
yeah, I mean, you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have people complain, right? Like, I remember when you were correct, they waited so long to release the actual starter evolutions because they knew that they were more whack than what the concept ones from fans were. And you know what? I knew what was going to happen after that. They were going to get used to them and it was going to grow on them and they were actually going to like them. And now you see more fan artwork of these starters than anything on Instagram and stuff like that. It's because people are enjoying them actually. And yes, they were complaining and like wah wah wah, and then they start to actually get to know these Pokemon. They actually get to play the game. They get to see their personality. They get to see the moves. They get to just kind of bond with them. And
Right,
I think that's what is overall first and foremost, that's what it's all about. That's what Pokemon is all about. And so then when you go and transfer that into the cards, you're going to have people that at first glance are going to do the same thing, but then when they start getting them in hand, start ripping them in packs, start hitting them, they're going to be like, wow, this set is actually super fun. It's super awesome. And of course, the mechanics are going to be fresh. They're going to be new. So across the board, I agree. I think it's going to be super fun. I think it's going to be a great set. I'm going to go all in because this is going to be the first time that I am back from a base set. I started collecting kind of right after the Sword and Shield base set happened,
right,
because I did end up getting Sword and Shield
right,
on Nintendo. I got Let's Go Pikachu, all that good stuff, but I did get the game, but I didn't start jumping back into the collecting of strictly Pokemon until right after Sword and Shield base set, and then of course right after I started getting into it a couple sets later, Champion's Path came down the line, and then that was just a horrible time for everybody to be a collector of Pokemon.
right,
But but I had tons of fun collecting that. This is going to be the first time that I'm back in action, collecting straight from a base set drop. And you best believe if they're going to change and they're going to oust Ash. And now Ash is going to be done with the anime series. We have a new protagonist. We're going to have a new partnership, and now the cards are going to change from yellow borders to gray borders. Okay, come on, give me the new backings. And if you're not going to, at least we know that the gray borders are going to be now associated with this new protagonist in English, not Japanese, and
right,
the yellow borders are going to basically die with Ash, and so that's going to be kind of cool. And as a collector myself, and passing that down to my kids, I think it's going to be super cool to show them the huge difference in jump of aesthetics. Of hey, look, these are the yellow bordered cards, these are the gray bordered cards, and I know. There's a lot of full art cards and VMAXs and alt art cards and stuff like that that don't even have those colored borders. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the old school cards, even like XY, all these other really good sets that have even the amazing rares and the radiants that I'm talking about have these yellow borders. And now we're going away with them, man. That's a huge, huge step, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. I think it's neat that they decided to, you know, roll out this new protagonist in the series as well as like, you know, change the backends of the
It's
cards. I know it's not the same as refreshing for like
no, I hope they change it back into the cards. We haven't seen that yet, but
well,
at least the
I meant like
front
the fronts. I'm
borders.
saying the fronts. I
Yeah,
mean the also
yeah,
borders. I
yeah.
think it's interesting that they chose to make that change with a new protagonist for the
No, it's
English and
perfect.
it,
It's
it, it
perfect.
is, but I'm just wondering how that's reciprocated in Japan, you know? Just let's be honest, without Japan, Pokemon wouldn't be anything. I mean, obviously people in the US love it, people in Europe love it, but I'm saying like,
I don't think
before
they care, dude, because I don't think they care about the English sets at all, anyways. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Somebody want to go ahead and comment
I'm just
down,
saying
you can let us know. But I
as
mean,
far as it getting the same love, you know what I mean? Like that's like love right there. If you're thinking about your US market as a whole, what does that say? It's like do they care about the way the US market sways more than the Japanese market? I would say
oh,
yes.
100%,
I would say
100%
yes
they do.
because print runs, I mean, we've seen that with print runs, but it's interesting to think about, you know what I mean?
Well, okay, I say yes, but then I say no on the other hand because they don't give us the good stuff. They give us the snickle fritz. You know what I mean? Like they give us
They
the
do
card
us.
stock. They give us the card stock that isn't the good card stock with the really really nice texturing, and the hollows are just a little they hit just a little different, man. And so they are holding out on us, but do they treat the collectability in the market better in the English world? Yeah, I do believe so. And it's not really them, in my opinion. It's the secondary and people here in the United States and here in
Throwing money at
uh,
it.
yeah, just absolutely going bananas to try to get a card and have FOMO and stuff like that. In Japan, of course, it's different. It's not just collectability; it's a huge game that they actually play.
Right.
So the whole dynamic is just different. So yeah, I do think there might be some offense towards this change, but overall, dude, I don't
I'm
think
gonna be
they
honest,
give a
that's what I
damn.
thought, but I feel like they don't give a damn either. Because I feel like, and it's not like people we know that are jumping on the Japan Pokemon craze. I think people are starting to realize, hey, the quality's way better. The print runs are smaller. The quality's better. They do cooler stuff, dude. You got me into Japanese Pokemon a lot more, or at least I wouldn't say got me into it because I haven't dove into it. I still am an English collector,
Me too. No, I
but
am too. I'm a huge English
I
more
know
than Japanese,
I know
but
you are. But I'm saying you definitely dabble in it more than I do, and you got me to appreciate how much more they do. Like even with the reverse foils, it's like a real pattern. It's not just like, hey, we threw a foil sheet on it's reverse. Be happy with your white code card, nerd.
well, take a look at the latest reverse hollows they did for Japanese. The Pokeball was super awesome, and there were little Pokeballs everywhere throughout the card, other than inside the image box. And that was the reverse hollow they choose to go for, and that was amazing. I
Right.
loved that. I thought that was super cool. The way it was laid out wasn't like a grid or anything else. They weren't all touching each other. It was a very just natural looking reverse hollow effect, but with Pokeballs, and that is just so unique. And I hope that they carry these things over into English. And I would love it if they tried it out in Japanese first, gave you a little insight of what was coming, and then Bing Bang Boom, they
Right.
carried it over to English, which seems to be what they're doing now with the gray borders. But overall, man, I absolutely love it, and I'm really excited. I hope everyone else is for this change that's coming in 2023 for Pokemon, and hopefully everybody can kind of be there for the change right when it happens so they can say, yeah, dude, I've absolutely been here since Scarlet and Violet dropped, the new gray borders and everything that's changed with it, and the new anime.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be really good. I think it's a lot to be excited about, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about on the podcast in the future coming up with it. I mean, I'm telling you, I have a feeling. I mean, the thing that you tell it is inflation, but I really feel like Scarlet and Violet are gonna do really well right off the rip,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Yes. And I think they already have really good sets planned for after that are going to blow people's minds, and they're going to do things same, but they are going to have a little twist to it. So
I
I'm
think it's a
super,
very fair.
super
I think it's a
excited.
very fair assumption, honestly.
And I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. But guys, I mean, that pretty much wraps up this episode. We really hope you guys enjoyed today's talk. We'll definitely catch you guys in the next one. If you guys want any other topics or want to talk about anything, please go ahead and leave those down in the comments. And until next time, we will talk to you guys later.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're gonna try and start posting more regularly, especially with the new year. It's sort of me and Pod Bounty's New Year's resolution. But thanks for tuning in. Hope you got to enjoy this if you were working out or chilling, or maybe a long car ride to work. And we hope to have a lot more exciting episodes and talk about a lot more current and relevant things in the future. Happy trading, grading, and collecting.
See you guys in the next one. Later.
Peace.